So, today the news broke that Nvidia was allegedly planning to separate RTX 4070 reviews into two separate days. The first day, the earliest day that partners would be able to have their cards reviewed, was reserved for those models that stuck to MSRP, that stuck to the starting price that Nvidia is about to announce for the RTX 4070, which means those cards that get reviewed first would get the most exposure, get people clicking around for them sooner, and probably get higher sales than any cards reviewed a day later above MSRP. See, the second day, allegedly, according to video cards, was reserved for cards that charged more than MSRP. And, I imagine a lot of people in the PC gaming community found this news interesting. I mean, heck, I did. And for being honest, this is a first. One of these graphics card companies saying to their partners, hey, if you charge more than MSRP, you're going to have to wait to get exposure. And I poked around with a few of my sources, and a couple of them, well, they really came through for me, and more than I expected them to. You see, today I wasn't just able to confirm that the documents being shared by video cards are legit. Those are real documents being shared with NVIDIA's partners, but I also got a bit of an explanation as to why NVIDIA is doing this, which includes the planned pricing of the RTX 4070, which before I show it on screen, let me ask you person watching this video, why do you think NVIDIA would put extra effort this time around into making sure AIBs don't charge much more than MSRP? Do you think it's because Jensen Huang has found religion and has decided not to be greedy? No, let's be honest. Occam's razor would suggest that's the least likely scenario going on here. Okay, well, so then if greed is still around, why would they do this? Well, I'll tell you why, and let me put this quote on screen. It's because the RTX 4070, at least as of right now, is planned to have an MSRP that is so dangerously close to the 4070 Ti that if AIBs were to charge much more than MSRP, it would cost the same as a lot of 4070 Ti models. Anyways, I am told that right now, NVIDIA plans to launch the RTX 4070 on April 13th at $749.99, and that AIBs are being pressured to not let their models get above $800 and push into 4070 Ti territory. I've also had it confirmed that the Founders card that I leaked last year should be launching on that date as well, and that the only thing we can hope for at this point is that NVIDIA adjust the pricing down a little bit from here, but that as of right now, $750 is the plan. And I have to be honest with all of you watching this. This did shock me. Trust me, it did. Probably as much as it's shocking you all right now. I actually got into arguments with a couple of my sources about if this could even possibly be true, because it just seemed like such an absurd price. But they all pushed back, and they all provided proof, and at the end of the day, these information did come from some of my best sources that haven't been wrong before. And so, well, I think that there's a very good chance this could end up being the price of the 4070, as silly as it sounds. But because it sounds silly, I want to be extra clear about exactly what I'm leaking today, all right? What I'm leaking today is that right now, today, March 14th, NVIDIA has communicated to their partners in writing that they plan to charge $749.99 right now, and that they're doing extra efforts to ensure that AIBs don't charge more than around 10% above MSRP, whereas if you remember back to the 4070 Ti, a lot of those models to this day were 20 or 30% above MSRP. And so it seems like NVIDIA is attempting to keep the average price of this card about 10% below the 4070 Ti, even if the starting price isn't even 10% cheaper. But, speaking of the 4070 Ti, don't forget that although my sources are sure this is the plan right now, that they also think that the price could be changed. And if you remember what I leaked about the 4070 Ti, on December 27th, I communicated that it seemed like AIBs were preparing to charge basically the same price they are already planning to charge for a 4080 12GB, around $900. But then just a day later, I got confirmation that NVIDIA had made a last-minute decision to lower the MSRP to $800, and a lot of AIB models had their pricing adjusted down as well. And I could totally see that happening again. Heck, this might be a tactic. It's actually a tactic that I think AMD's done multiple times in the past, and that's that You plan for a higher price, see how your AIBs react, see if this gets out to the public and see how the public reacts. And then if people get super mad, you knock off $20 or $50 so that maybe they don't think it's overpriced anymore because they initially thought it would be much worse. I could totally see that happening. It'd be naive to think it wouldn't. It's totally possible that Nvidia will, in a couple of weeks, which let's remember, this graphics card isn't launching for another month, may decide to just go, no, it's going to be 650 or 700. But at the same time, that's still a ridiculous price in my opinion. And almost certainly is above the price what people were expecting. I think most people were hoping that the 4070 would cost between $500 and $600, and whether it's $650, $700, or $750, this is still way more than what people were expecting. And so, well, I actually now want to get into why Nvidia might actually charge $750. Yes, I think they might change their mind in a week or something, but if they don't, why does Nvidia think that $750 is a fair price, and how might the competition respond? I'm going to talk about that, but first, an ad from a sponsor. This March, Jesse is focusing on playing tug of war, fetching sticks and balls all day and night, and just watching over the neighborhood. But me, I'm actually doing a decent amount of testing on equipment for new builds for members of my family. And one thing I won't have to watch for when it comes to these builds is where to get reasonably priced Windows keys. And that's because I use cdkeyoffer.com. This piece of content is sponsored by cdkeyoffer.com and their March sales event. Spring forward into avoiding paying monopolistic fees for Windows 10, Windows 11, and Microsoft Office products this March. Click on the links in the description to help this channel, by the way. Seriously, just clicking on those links helps Moore's Law is dead a lot. But what would help even more if you need a Microsoft Office key is to use offer code BROKENSILICON to save 25% off all Microsoft products, and then dieshrink to save 3% off everything else on the website, because they do also sell Steam games, PlayStation keys, and even gaming gear as well. Use cdkeyoffer.com today. Alright, so in the first part of this video, I leaked the current planned pricing for the RTX 4070, but I made it clear that just like with the 4070 Ti, I could see Nvidia changing their mind before they announce the price and adjusting it down, but probably not by more than 10%. And because of that, it's clear that Nvidia wants to charge at least around RTX 3080 pricing for the RTX 4070, and I actually think there's a few reasons why they might think this is a okay thing to do. First of all, let us not forget the bill of materials information that I leaked about Ampere pricing right around when it launched in my Nvidia's Ultimate Play video. I leaked that back then, the RTX 3080 was making maybe a 10 to 20% profit at MSRP, and since 2020, prices have only gone up on the components that these graphics cards use. And in fact, this information was backed up recently by Gamers Nexus by their contact with EVGA that confirmed that much below MSRP, there is no way they would make a profit on a 3080. And so, yeah, think about it. The die used for the RTX 4070 may be about half as big as the RTX 3080's die size, but it does have more RAM, and at a minimum, the per millimeter squared cost is 50% higher with the 4N node Nvidia is using now versus the Samsung 8nm node before, and there are definitely some websites that think that the wafer cost is almost double what it was back then, and so yeah, there's no way around it. Nvidia may have unlaunched the RTX 4080 12GB, yes, but they do want to charge $900 for a fully enabled 8102 die, and that means that this whole time, they probably want to charge $750 for a cut-down variant of it as well, and so maybe they still want to. Now, second of all, speaking of cutting down a graphics card, well, the rumors out there right now that I can't entirely verify myself, but I have no reason to doubt right now, state that the RTX 4070, although it uses the same die as the 4070 Ti, that its CUDA cores are cut down to 5,888, although it is supposedly going to have the same bus, VRAM capacity, and bandwidth of the 4070 Ti. So if we just do some scratch math, 5,888 divided by 7,680, then you just add the bus width divided by the bus width, which is the same, and divide by 2, you get a rough estimate that this graphics card should perform around 12% weaker than the 4070 Ti, or let's just call it 10 to 15% weaker then. Well, then if it's 10 to 15% weaker, you could see Nvidia saying, well, it's okay to make it 10% cheaper, right? And I know the MSRP for the 4070 Ti is $800, but if I average a few of the cheapest models on Newegg right now, I think the best argument you can make is that an entry-level 4070 Ti is really around $820, and there's an argument that it's really around $850 if you take all of the models into account. And so if the average 4070 Ti is around $820 or even $850, but then the average 4070 is around $770, if what I've heard about controlling AIB milking here is to be believed, well, $770, $850, you're kind of looking at a price here that is about 10% cheaper, and that might be what Nvidia argues. And they might be able to make that argument if they actually produce a ton of the Founders cooler. Remember that I've already leaked. So if Nvidia has this cool little, like basically sized down version of a 3080 cooler that cools the card well, they make a ton of these Founders cards and sell them for $750, the average street price might actually be 10% cheaper, and it might actually be at a price that, like I've already covered in the first couple of points, is the price Nvidia thinks they need to be at to make a decent profit. Well, you know what? I gotta correct myself here. This isn't the price $750 Nvidia needs to be at to make a decent profit. That's what they would probably say in an interview. $750 is the price Nvidia knows they need to be at to make an absurd profit, like they are on every 4080 they sell for $1,200 and more. A graphics card that isn't selling well, but Nvidia is too stubborn to lower the price on. It's not about making decent profits. Nvidia, with the 4070, is trying to make absurd profits, and well, the good news is that you already have better options, people. The RX 6950 XT is $700 now, possibly less than what Nvidia is about to announce for the 4070, and it comes with more VRAM and the same or better performance, probably. And don't kid yourselves here. Recent testing of recent AAA releases has shown that 12 gigabytes is already holding back the 4070 Ti, and it will hold back the 4070, just like 10 gigabytes is also holding back the 3080. The 6950 XT is already a better choice, and the 7900 XT is gravitating pretty quickly towards $800, and it's even officially, I noticed today, $850 from AMD's own website, which is exciting, although I gotta say, god dang it, AMD, wake the fuck up. We all know, we're not stupid. We all know the 7900 XT should have been $800 from the start, and now you got bad reviews, and if you want to make a splash, which Nvidia is leaving themselves wide open for you to punch them and make a splash, you need to drop that price officially to $800 or even $750, and AMD, your margins don't lie. We know RDNA 3 is a more economical design than Lovelace. We also know that you have preferential treatment for pricing with TSMC compared to Nvidia. We know you could afford to charge $800 or probably $750 for the 7900 XT, make good profits, and teach Nvidia a lesson. And I just hope AMD you do it, because it's starting to become ridiculous how much here you're just letting Nvidia keep market share while just raising prices to an absurd level. And right now is when a lot of people, after what I just said, would jump in and say, well, it doesn't matter what AMD charges for their cards, people won't buy them. And I have to remind you, yeah, they will. Look, I just did a video going through public data that, from my perspective, proves that, yes, well, people don't want to pay the same price for a Radeon graphics card as they do for an Nvidia graphics card of the same performance. It's pretty clear that things have changed from 5 years ago. If AMD charges a low enough price, people will choose it over Nvidia. It's clear people see Radeon as a viable option at the right price. What that means? Well, if AMD charges 20 to 30% less for a graphics card for the equivalent performance to Nvidia, it seems like people will buy it in big numbers. but it can't just be like 5 to 15% less. And I would heavily recommend a recent video I did that explains all of this, but frankly, I can just throw this in here right now, guys. If you want any proof, just look at how the 7900 XTX, priced 20% lower than the 4080 at MSRP, continues to sell way better at MSRP than the 4080, while the 7900 XT that is gravitating towards the same price as the 4070 Ti is having trouble selling. If you have the same performance of Nvidia, AMD, they have a couple features you don't have, and people expect a bit more VRAM and your price to be about 20% lower than the competition. And if it is, people will buy it. So I've got to say it. The 7900 XT is a bit better than the 4070 Ti, which means it should probably cost, unfortunately, I'm not saying it's fair, but it is the world, 10% less if you want to get as good sales. But the good news is that people will buy it now if you do it, AMD. And we all know, when we look at your earnings, you can afford to do it. And we also know that TSMC has the capacity if you want to go for market share. But ultimately, I'm starting to get into a video I've already done, and I think that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button. Please comment below what you think about this insane pricing that Nvidia is considering. And please share this with your friends, or consider joining the Patreon or supporting our sponsors. Remember, if you need anything that our sponsors are selling, it really helps out the channel if you even just click on the links and browse their products, and it helps a ton if you support Moore's Law Z on Patreon. And well, that gets you access to a ton of exclusive content. A die shrink came out that was basically just a bonus broken silicon. If you like that, you can ask us questions if you're a patron, and there's all this other stuff out there for you if you support us there. But at the end of the day, all I have left to say now is thank you for watching.